All right. All right. We're live. This is an exciting moment. 1 year it took me, 1 year to get here. And I brought a whole bunch of friends with me who took the trip with me. This year was an unbelievable year, momentous, historical, for many reasons, good and bad. But today, I'm going to show you something that will amaze you, impress you, and inspire you. And I hope that you go along with us during this live webcast journey to explore something that happened that was amazing this year. And we will be telling you how to get a free comic book anthology, the one that we're about to talk about now. Something that up until now you didn't know you needed, and yet you do. It was a little bit like the iPad, right? When the first iPhone came out, we were like, this is the greatest thing ever, and we got it. And then they said the iPad, and a lot of people went, what do I need? I got an iPhone, I got a laptop. I don't need something in between. And now all of us have iPads. When you hear about this anthology and watch the videos and see the passion that went into each one of these stories, you are going to say, I didn't even know I needed this. And that's where we are tonight. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be introducing three of my partners who are going to tell you about this amazing anthology. They're going to introduce themselves. We're going to show you some website links. You're going to go on a journey with us. And guess what? You're going to love it. You are going to be amazed that you didn't have this before and now you have it. There's so much passion that these people created comic books through the year of 2020 on spec specifically for this moment. We'll give you a little bit of background, but first I want to introduce you to my partners. I'm going to pull up my little script here, which I'll reference a few times tonight because I can't memorize things like this. Our first guest is Ari. Ari, how are you tonight? Ari, you are muted. We're going to do it one more time. Ari, how are you tonight?
I am doing well, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm all revved up and ready to go. I'm going to ask my second guest to join me on screen. Rob, how are you doing tonight?
Fantastic. I've been waiting for this moment for a year, like you. Being part of this process, seeing it come to this moment is super awesome and exciting.
And certainly last but not least, Erin, would you join us up on screen? Erin, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
I'm all revved up and ready to go.
I can see that.
Ready for this?
I am. I'm revved up and ready for this. Let's do
Revved
this.
up and ready to go. All right, I'm going to lower the camera a little bit. It was a little too high. All right, here's what we're going to do. We are going to be showing you a trailer, basically a book trailer. It's a popular thing these days, showing what this anthology is all about, but just little bits and pieces and panels. Set to music, created by Arielle Lupkin, who is part of the comic book school staff. She will show you what she is passionate about in all of these anthology stories. Then we will come back. We will take you through the anthology. We'll show you how we created it. And then in the end, we'll tell you how you can participate a little bit next year. So the first thing we're going to do, Rob, are we ready with our book trailer? We're ready. Rob gave us a thumbs up. So we're going to blink off screen. Rob's going to show you the movie trailer. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Parasomniac's about a man going through a mental crisis that has nightmares, and these nightmares seem to haunt him in his real life.
And I think deeper it's about fear, about what's at the core of fear, and then deal with those fears.
Greetings, hello, and how do you do, friends and strangers? My name is Bolu Oriowo, and I'm the writer and artist behind The Battle of the Belly of the Beast, a story that you can find in the Comic Book School's 8-page challenge anthology. The Battle of the Belly of the Beast follows an adventure in the life of Kip Kerstrom, man of tomorrow's yesterday from the future, an easily overwhelmed space explorer who teams up with his hyper-competent sidekick Vanessa to save an unfortunately delicious alien prince from the maw of a deadly space creature, all while avoiding the clutches of a trio of evil extraterrestrial assassins. It's a story for you if you enjoy things such as crazy sci-fi, fun action, and an acceptable amount of gross-out humor. Until then.
My name is Mr. AnderSiN. I'm known as the Comics Advocate and Uncanny Devil. But more importantly, before all that began, I was just a creator trying to find my way. And thanks to Comic Book School, I did find my way. Check out my creative journey, see the roadblocks that I had, how Comic Book School inspired me, and all the great art brought to life by all these amazing creators who joined me on this creative journey. This is my answer to the 8-page challenge, and I hope it inspires your creative journey, and I hope it inspires you to take the next 8-page.
Hi, my name is Jared Elvin from Micmacs. My comic story features the Meat Bucket Megababes, who are a group of leading ladies from my past comics, graphic novels, and other art. Inspired by current events, a virus has taken over the Meat Bucket multiverse, which mutates its sufferers into grotesque Lovecraftian entities. It's up to the Megababes to travel to another dimension in order to stop it, but what dangers do they put themselves in by going there? I hope you enjoy, and please visit www.micmacs.com to see more of my art, including the Meat Bucket Megababes pin-up artwork on Patreon.
Hi guys, my name is Andres and I am the writer and letterer of Twilight of the Gods Prophecy. The art of the story is from a fellow countryman of mine called Gaston Helser. The colors were provided by Maya Popacik, hope I didn't butcher that. And this story started when Gaston told me that he wanted to draw dwarves and elves and orcs, and I'm not that much into that, so I tried to give him a story that was respectful of the subject matter, but in the end I took advantage of the twist in the ending to add some humor there and to show where my feelings truly lie with the subject matter. Hope you like it. Thank you.
At phillipspace.dv.com. I'm on Facebook. I illustrated a story called The Anachronauts. It's titled Trapped in Time. It's about a girl from the future and her cowboy partner who get trapped in the medieval era and have to essentially escape. Worked around that, knowing where I was going to, or developed a story based off of an ending that I had in mind and then built it from there.
Hello, my name is Joyce Dawkins. I'm the writer of The Black Knight. This story is based off a short story I had to write for one of my college courses during my sophomore year of college back in 2017. It's about a man who was born on a slave ship and is rescued by a knight. This knight, he trains the boy to be a knight like him. And the short story is basically talking about his origin, his horse, his sword, and his quest. And his quest being that he'll go back to the land where his master came from and save it.
Hi, I'm Zach. I'm the creator of Braun the Lucky. Part of the team, Maya was the amazing colorist on this, and my story is basically about a priest for the god of chaos. So the germ of the idea started kind of as a desire to do a traditional D&D in a non-traditional way. So he's a priest, but he doesn't have any magical powers or divine powers or anything like that you'd expect. He can't heal anyone or turn the dead or anything. Like, his power is chaos, basically. What you would expect to happen doesn't happen around him. So the story is really just a story about Braun being brought into this specific moment where a prophecy was supposed to happen, where this human sacrifice was supposed to happen, and jeopardizing this world's survival, and how his involvement alters that predictive future. So that's sort of like the gist of Braun without giving too much away.
So my name is Erin. I have started a comic book thanks to Comic Book School. Unfortunately, during COVID and all this stuff, there's a lot going on, so I ended up submitting a flash fiction piece, which is a small part of a much larger story about basically what would happen if the world got flooded and how we would deal with it. centers on two particular characters on a ship going on a rescue mission, or so they think.
I'm not sure why we lost the audio on that last
I
one.
don't either. You know what? It must have been too much of a mind blower, and the internet couldn't handle Erin.
I'm so sorry. I speak
Well, I think
quietly.
we have Erin's intro, so we can play it later. So don't worry. If you missed it, we'll probably be able to
I
swing
do
back
have
and get
the
it.
floor.
But Buddy has
First
the
of all,
floor now.
you know what? Thank you to Arielle, and thank you to Kevin for pulling those videos together. They're going to go to good use tonight. In fact, at the beginning of each one of the anthology stories, if there is a video, we're going to be rerunning that. So some of the audio is a little bit weird, but we're going to fix that a little later. You get to hear all of Erin's, and it's going to be amazing. So what we're going to do now is we're going to be introducing ourselves very briefly. I will go first. My name is Buddy Scalera, and I am the founder and the publisher here at Comic Book School. I'm a professional comic book writer. I've been published by Marvel and other publishers, and you may know my name from Wizard Magazine and the Wizard Online. So I've been in comics a very long time, and Comic Book School is something that is a passion project for me. Brought to, my greatest dream was to bring new creators, the next generation of creators together to make something and build a community. And the people that are on this chat and who are listening tonight, many of them helped make that dream come true. Let me do a quick introduction. Ari, would you give yourself a quick introduction? Tell everybody who you are and what you did on the anthology and what the name of your story was.
Yeah, okay. So my name is Ari Rubin. I go by AA Rubin. I was the prose editor for the anthology. I'm also doing a lot of the communications and public relations for it. I have two stories in the anthology. One is A Day in the Life of Mr. Stupendous with Arielle Lupkin. It's a superhero spoof, an everyday life, a single day in the life of the hero. The other is a flash fiction piece with Mike Ponce. It's a Western fantasy mashup that I don't want to tell you too much about because it has a twist ending. So spoilers. That's it. I've been a writer for a long time, and when I decided to write comics as one of the things that I write, really the key thing for me was Buddy's panels at New York Comic Con, Comic Book School. I'd say I met about half of the artists that I've worked with through the Creator Connections panel and the subsequent things that we've done online. So that's me. I'll give it back to you.
Well, so much for that introduction. Ari's a little bit modest. Ari slugged it out. Every single page, checked everything. He is an astoundingly good editor. His attention to detail is only rivaled by his ability to actually tell a great story. And we're lucky to have him. Speaking of great storytellers, Rob, our engineer, the guy who is literally, I don't know if you could see it below there, he actually has two extra hands on top of the two that he has up there. He is moving and grooving, engineering this and running it. Rob, give an introduction. Tell us about yourself and what you contributed to the anthology.
It always helps if you're unmuted. My name is Mr. AnderSiN. I am an advocate for comics. I'm very proud of that. And I've gone to Buddy's classes over the last decade, and he still teaches me to this day. Watching this process has been amazing. I've kind of stayed in the back and always volunteered for anything that was needed, trying to help for any time I can. I actually added to this the creative journey. I took a lot of the things from my own personal life, made it vague enough that hopefully all you guys can kind of read it and go, oh, I feel that. I've been there. I've done that. I've seen that. And you feel like you go on the journey with me. And I hope it inspires some of you who've never taken the plunge to actually go, I can do it too. Because in the end, it's more about the energy to listen, to learn, and then to do something with that knowledge than anything else. The rest can be helped. That's why we have story editors. That's why we have people who can help you create a comic. But it takes the desire and the need to get it done. So that is me in a nutshell. Oh, buddy, you're muted.
And I will say, Rob, you are the indie advocate, and you are by far the most passionate about getting people to be motivated, letting them know they can do it. And I think, Rob, I think you've rallied behind so many indie creators saying, look, it doesn't matter that the quality isn't quite there yet, or your storytelling isn't where you want it to be. Just make the comics. And what I love about what you do is you really drive home, just do it. Just get out there and do it. And I think that's an amazing thing. And by the way, everybody, we can see your comments streaming up there. So if you have something nice to say about me specifically, you just roll it right in the. I know, Erin, right? And every conversation we have, it's me asking Erin for a compliment. So that's how we start things in general. But speaking of Erin, if there was one person who quite literally was the spark that started this fire, it is my next guest. She is someone who opened up herself at Comic-Con in 2019 and said, look, she wanted to make comics and she wanted to commit to something. And we were talking about it on the floor after the panels, and she had this epic view of the world. And I said, look, can you do 8 pages by next year? And she says, I can. And she had noted that her background as a professional is as a creator. So she creates every day. And I said, doing 8 pages is harder than you think. And she said, fine. And she said she would make a schedule on a calendar. And as I went home and I thought, well, gosh, I wonder if we can extend this to anybody else. And she said, sure. And we reached out and we talked to an editor named Mike Martz, who's at Aftershock Comics. He looked at our portfolio and our schedule and our plan, and he helped us outline what we would do through the calendar. And then we worked with Darren Sanchez at Marvel Comics, and we figured out if these deliverables were practical. Remember, 8 pages sounds easy, but it really isn't. But behind all of this was Erin just constantly reminding me that we had a mission. Like we were doing this for the community. And then we built a community, and I'll tell you about that later. But first, I just want to introduce Erin. Erin, tell us a little about yourself and what you worked on in this anthology. And don't go short on me because you did a lot.
Well, you started with my whole intro already, buddy. Hi, my name is Erin. I'm part of Comic Book School. I wore my shirt, buddy, just for you, man. Okay. You can get a cool t-shirt if you talk to Buddy too often. So basically, I'm a creative person. I'm a storyteller. I love telling stories. I'm a motion graphics artist, professional animator. But I was kind of in a rut, and I wasn't really doing kind of the creative stories that I wanted to do. So I went to Comic-Con in 2019. I met Buddy at all of his panels, and he really had a lot of great information. And he said, look, you seem really motivated. Like, what's your deal? And I was like, well, I'm kind of stuck. And he's like, well, you don't seem stuck. Like, can you do this? Can you have 8 pages? And I said, yeah, let's do it. But once I built the schedule and said, okay, this is kind of the schedule I followed, but it was like, this is great. Let's give this to other people. And we started building this community, and I got so involved in building the community, I forgot to write my comic. Whoops. So, but in doing so, I got to help, so many other people, not just break into comics, but find a way to get published. And so I'm actually very thankful for kind of this year and what we've done. Next year, I'm focusing on me doing it, but we've got a lot done, and it's thanks to Buddy kind of being there and helping us network, and Ari, kept pushing us to hit the deadlines that I had made up and Buddy had edited so that we get everywhere, and Rob with his sort of internet advocate knowledge that he'd just jump in whenever we didn't know what to do and be like, here, why don't you try this? And we came together as a community. We have 100 people in the background that we're all going to thank throughout this live stream, Arielle included, Kevin included, Miriam included, that are just going to sort of jump up as we go through. There's so many people, it's impossible to name, but I'm not sure if it's because of COVID and I was locked inside with my 2 dogs for 8 months, but just seeing all of your faces everywhere online helped sort of get through this. And we put together a great comic because of it. So now everybody can see what we've done.
And I think the key thing here is we, Erin. I think we all contribute. I don't think any one person could have done this on their own. And I'm so happy to see people chatting. Hey, how was the audio for those of you who were on the stream? I Anthony Pierce, I see you there, and Meredith, I see you want a shirt, so we'll help you out there. I'm hoping that the audio was good. Happy New Year to whoever it is. It is worth noting. We could have done this yesterday, but it was a geek holiday. It was Stan Lee's birthday. So thanks to Stan, we are all here ready to say Excelsior. But thanks everybody for joining us. And it is worth noting, we'll be showing you this community that we talked about and why we created our own community. We'll be showing you the website, the table of contents, and the background. And of course, for those of you who want to create with us next year, we'll be giving you a little bit of information about that. It's very easy to participate. It's free, and as is the PDF, which we'll be sharing with you during this whatever the word is. I ran out of words because I had to look at the script. I can't do two things
Live
at
stream,
once.
during this live
During
stream.
this live stream. Erin knows I'm a simple man. I can't do two things at the same time. All right, so we are going to be showing you our website and our forums, and that'll give you a little bit of orientation into what will come next with the PDF. So, Rob, are you able to queue up the Comic Book School webpage and show people the landing page for our wonderful anthology, which I should note has a name in the history from Comic Book School. When I first started doing comic book education, some 20 plus years ago, I came up with this idea to sort of unite people by doing what would be now considered a speed dating, but just introductions, helping to break the ice. It's called Creator Connections. And as we were voting on what we thought would be a good name for the anthology, we were all united by Creator Connections. But I also wanted to bring up that the idea was to, every time you write a script, you write page 1, panel 1. And that's really the start of storytelling in comic books. So we were planning this for 2020. And many of you know that because of COVID, we weren't able to go to Comic-Con. But what we did was we said, look, this is the road to NYC 2020, and this was supposed to be available for NYCC 2020, which got canceled. But the reality was we kept making the comic no matter what happened. Rob, can you click into that anthology? There you go. And just scroll down a little bit. You could see it right there. All right. You could see the complete list of store creators and stories. You scroll down before you click on that. Just scroll down a little bit so you know what. Oh, all right. You're in there now. So this is all of the steps that we took to go through this. We did it together. We did it on the message board /forums, which we'll show you in a couple minutes. But each one of these steps guided everybody to do it in order together. So you felt like you were going through something together. And for those of you who participated in the experience, thank you very much for following along and participating. And you also opened yourself up, right? People who were putting out their script, they were getting feedback. They were putting their pencils on. They were getting feedback on their inks and their colors and their letters. And I would argue that everybody's story was a little bit better as a result. Rob, can you click on, check out our complete list of creators and stories so people can check out what that looks like? Now, each one of these creators will have their own landing page. We're not going to click through all of them right now, but each one of them will have their own landing page, and you can just scroll through it right here, Rob, where we will give you their name, links to their social media or their personal websites, so you can discover them, because really at the end of the day, what we wanted to do is ensure that this was shining a spotlight on all the people who dedicated their time to bring you an awesome anthology like this with wonderful stories. Each one of them has a different flavor. You can even see the flash fiction down there a little bit further down. You can see their copyright will be on each one of these. You go all the way back up to the top of the page, Rob. You'll be able to get to this, and we'll provide you the link in the chat in a minute. You can see free PDF download there in red in the middle, or you can click on the cover and you'll be able to download PDF. It is free to download and share. Just respect the copyrights of each one of these creators, and everything will be great. So this will be available to you. It's available right now. And I hope you guys enjoy it. And I hope you check these out, because people worked really hard, and we agreed not to charge any money for any of these because we were so passionate about the stories we were doing. Before we go to the next section, Ari, Rob, Erin, anything to add? This is
We're all just gobsmacked at this point. It's like it's been so long in the works that it's kind of not quite hit me that it's actually up and out and ready for people to read. I'm really excited to see kind of what people think of it and how they react to it, and you know that everybody that worked on this worked so hard for it and put in so much time and effort to make this a really great anthology, a really professional piece of work. And Rob was saying a lot that, a lot of other people didn't put out anything this year, and look at what we've accomplished the first time out. I hope that a lot of people read it and a lot of more people want to make comics, not only with us, but just in general, so that we get a lot more stories and a lot more, different, new and interesting things to read. So that's my 2 cents.
And I'll just say that with everything going on, and we're not really able to see everyone like we normally would, like missing Comic-Con, missing, you miss seeing a lot of people you see every year, and working through the year on this, you really got to stay in touch even to a greater extent than you normally would, which is really something in a year like this where we were all isolated and kind of in our own spaces.
And I'll say this, it's now available on Comic Book School on Facebook. It's now available on the Comics Newswire on Facebook group. It's now available on my profile personally, and I'm going to continue to be dropping the links, including on Twitter under the Comics Newswire, and I'm sure Arielle will see it on Twitter and share it out. And if you see it, you grab it, pass it on. This is free. This is over 100 pages, right? Like, we topped 100 pages. You're getting that for free. It's ridiculous. And I've seen inside of it. It's amazing. I can't wait to read all the stories. I've only gotten to read a few, and I've gotten to see them come alive. You're in for a treat. Download it today, start reading it, and be inspired, and then join us for the next challenge, which we'll talk about in the future. Not today. First, we want you to download and read this to see why you need to join us.
I love that. Rob, you can do commercials for me anytime. Just anytime. Or you're like a wrestling coach. I feel like I got to try harder. All right. Speaking of trying harder, and I don't know where that segue came from. Rob, would you pull up the Create forums? What you're about to see here are the actual forums that we used to create our comic books. And the reason we thought that this was important was because we needed a community. We needed a place. And I want to give a shout out to Kevin Pay, who was instrumental in helping us build these forums, ensuring that we had the right technology. And I think what was really important is Kevin sat down, went through all of our different options, and in the end recommended, these message boards. And I think Kevin and I agree, and I think the community agrees, that while it is a little tough to go and register for something new and remember to go to it, we also know that this won't be closed down by Facebook or Google or someone who just gets bored or wants to change things or wants advertising dollars. This is ours. And my background in marketing, one of the things we always say is don't build a house on rented land, right? You want to be able to own this, and we own this. This is ours. This is all of ours. Now, right now, registration is locked. I will unlock it after this. The reason it's locked is because we are getting bombarded with spam registrations. But if you sign up for the email newsletter, which we'll show you and is available on the website, we will be able to allow you to register, because we'll be prompting people to register. We'll have a registration drive, and you'll be able to participate. We have conversations about all kinds of things, but really we're focused on the professional nature of breaking into comics. Erin, any final thoughts on the message boards? Because I know that you spent a lot of time talking with Kevin and trying to figure out what the right technology was.
So we went through a couple different project management tools. We went through a couple different sort of chats and other things. But this ended up being a good place where people could not only follow just the threads they wanted to follow and be part of the community and post. There were some organizational issues at the beginning. I know that was a big deal. I know we're going to keep working on that in the community over the next couple of years, making sure that when you go to the forums, you can find what you're looking for. You can find your responses. You can find your messages. So we're always working on that. But I know Kevin and I went back and forth a lot about making sure that everybody gets an answer, and everybody, you're not just posting to an empty board of people who aren't there. This is an active working board. And while, Russian bots and needy money princes from Acrobat or wherever it is they're coming from in the spam universe are continually trying to get into our forums, it's because they're active. That's why. So cleaning it up, we're making sure that everybody can get to what they need to without getting spammed or getting any viruses or weird things like that. so far there aren't any of those, so no worries. And then if you have any issues, you can always email Kevin or myself, and we'll follow up with you really quick. So.
And it is worth noting that quite a lot of people are active on the boards, and thanks to Arielle and Ari and Kevin for making sure that the Twitter and the YouTube channel were all up to date. I think we're creating a small ecosystem here. It is all free. We don't believe that money should be a barrier to breaking in and doing something fun with your friends. And I think one of the things that we have noticed is we've come together and become friends, building a community. We were every year seeing each other at Comic-Con, and we would be happy to see each other. But, this idea was, how do we build a community where we felt like we were part of something? And it wasn't limited to Facebook or to some Google tool or something else that would go away. We wanted to make something that would be open source. Go ahead, Erin, you had something?
One of the other things about this community, especially because we started in the cons and because we got on the internet and we got on the forums, this isn't professionals only. This isn't, you have to graduate art school to be, the perfect drawer, the perfect story guy. This isn't, you have to have a professional credit to get in. This is a free and open forum for everybody. You can be at any level. You can be, interested in any part of the process. But if you're interested in comics, you're welcome. And that was one of the things that I really liked, because we had all levels. We had, people who were just starting out who'd never built a comic before, like myself. Maybe I was creative, but I'd never done a comic. And then we have, people like Ari and others who have been published, and they've been through the process. And it's not a school in the way that, we're going to sit down in class and you're going to pay for your tools and you're going to make sure you have the textbook. This is just a bunch of people who like the same thing and are all going to get together and help each other out, help each other get published, help each other learn, the ins and out of the industry. Because, buddy, you've been in the industry for, a number of years. You've published professional stuff, and we can all learn from that. And that you make yourself available, and that we're making ourselves available to each other to help is, it's a really great thing, and it's free. So there's that.
Yeah, and one of the cool things that that we were able to do was we used, and you'll see it in here and in the links, we used a script that I had written for Darren Sanchez at Marvel Comics for Avengers Assemble. I showed my pitching process, my outlining, my scripting, and then we had Ron Lim, who's the artist who joined us on, and he talked about his part of the process. So we showed the pencils, the inks, the colors, the letters, and the entire production continuum. And I think that that was really important for everyone in the community to see how all of these steps come together. And let's face it, Ari and Erin, I mean, we thought we knew what we were getting into building this anthology, but as Rob noted, this thing, it was very long. In fact, when Erin and I were starting it, we were thinking, okay, it'll be Erin's story and hopefully maybe one more. Erin, how many pages did we top out at?
143.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty incredible when you think that everybody did this remotely. Just over a couple live chats. We would try to meet at least once a month. We had Kathy Kirch, who was from mywritinghero.com. She talked to us about writing. We had Joe Pezwani, who is a marketing professional who talked about social media building. We got together, Ron Lim joined us, Darren joined us multiple times. And what we were able to pull together was something really special and really educational. And no matter how long you're in comics, and I've been in comics a long time, there's still a lot to learn. I feel like I'm constantly learning, and I learned from this process. I learned from the creators who were posting their stuff to the boards. I was reading the feedback and trying to get better as a writer myself. So I think that at the end of the day, we were all enriched. There was nobody here that didn't learn something, including me. And I think that the really important thing is we're going to continue that learning with future projects. But first, we're going to start to show you what our anthology looks like. So I'm going to ask Rob if question doesn't get answered on Kevin Karen, and I will do. Oh yes, Arielle, thank you for that. Obviously, we have the council members are part of the Twitter stream, YouTube, Facebook, and they are there and answering your questions if we miss them. But if we have to come back, Arielle, you just let us know if we have to come back.
Now, did you, buddy, real quick, speaking of the questions, do you want to run through a couple of the comments real quick before we get to it? Just because I know there are a few people who might not be sticking around past this. Do you want
let's do that.
Because there were a couple that I wanted to point out real quick.
Yeah, do that, Rob.
Okay, so thank you for that, Arielle, and a lot of congratulations. But Michael, who's a great guy, who actually got the Advocator, a different anthology, and wrote out for every story what he felt about it. And this was 3 issues he got. So you're talking about 18 stories that he actually took and the time to actually give his opinion on. You don't see people doing that, so I'm very appreciative of him. I have watched a few Facebook shows, and I have been told smaller stories are harder than a person thinks, easier to push an epic, huge story. Absolutely true. With the Advocator and what we're doing with the continuum, the Terraform continuum, you're telling people you have 4 to 6 pages to play, and everyone's like, I can do that, until you have to realize you have to start a story and land a story. Even if it's at a cliffhanger, you have to hook them in that time, and that's intimidating, wouldn't you say, buddy?
Yeah, I would. And I think the key thing is, you know, when you tell a story that's in an anthology, it's hard to distill down what you want to say. You have to build a world, establish characters, set up some sort of imperative that makes the story worth reading, have a twist, and have an ending. Whether or not that ending is a hard stop, like an O. Henry twist, or something that is open-ended, it is really difficult. And I think one of the things that we experience, Erin has an epic story in mind and had to really start to think, like, how do I narrow it down? In fact, quite a few of the creators, Ari included, you can see, have an idea for a character that can carry on, can continue. But the idea with this anthology was to do a lot of what Dark Horse Presents used to do and Marvel Comics Presents, which was to whet your appetite, give you something that would make you want to seek it out when you go to a convention and you see somebody with a full comic on their table. And hopefully some of the creators will continue to pursue that. But I will agree, Rob, and Erin and Ari jump in, how difficult it is to write tight.
Yeah, I would say that I do a lot of short fiction, both in comic short stories and also in prose fiction. And short stories got to be really lean. You don't have a lot of time. There's no, like, in a novel, you could have backstory and digressions, and people like that. You can spend 3 pages describing how a house looks, or every last meal, everything anybody ate at a particular. You can't do that. Everything in a short story needs to have a purpose for being there. And in a way, it's very good as a writer, because it forces you to stay on track and not to digress. I always think of that scene from Catcher in the Rye, where he's reading his theme and the class is screaming digression at him. Like, you have that voice in the back of your mind as you're writing the short story. But it gives you more freedom, because you can do weirder things in a short story, with terms of form, in terms of the types of twists and information, things you leave blank for the reader to figure out. Short stories, you could be more avant-garde than you can in a longer piece. And the reader will give it a chance, because it's only 8 pages. It doesn't take that long. You know, they'll stick with you for those 8 pages, and you got to deliver within that space.
Great. And Erin, what was it like for you trying to distill down that epic that you told me about into a flash fiction piece?
So a lot of it was finding a piece of the puzzle that would really be interesting enough to tell in such a short amount of time, because you don't have the time to establish the background of the characters, or to, give a thorough explanation of what's happened to the world. Why are they where they are? Where are they? You just have to give people just this little snippet that's interesting enough they want to read to the end, and then they want more, And so I'm one of those people, I'm super long-winded. I could tell you stories until 3 a.m, but I only had 140 words, 200 words, whatever it is. And it's just distilling that idea down into something that's interesting on its own was very difficult for me. And it was a very interesting challenge. I really enjoyed it.
It is a tough challenge. And hey, thank you for the comment, Anthony. Anthony and I go way, way back. He was one of the guys that I first created one of my first comic books with. So coming from you, Anthony, that means a lot. Oh, there, Erin. Look, Erin, actually, you were able to chat in the chat. Look at you. So smart. So smart. Oh, yes, that was the quote I was trying to think of. I don't have time to write you a short letter, so I wrote you a long one. Yes, editing is tough. Editing down is tougher. And you do have to find that little glimmer of a moment to whet someone's appetite and make them feel like it was worth their while. Mike Ponce, it's Ponce, I think, right? We had a chat with him. I worked on 2 stories. Very excited. We were excited to have you contribute, Mike. Thank you. Sorry if I butchered your name. All right. With that, we are going to ask Rob to pull up the PDF, the last version that Erin sent along. And we're going to start to show you the anthology. And for those of you who've seen the cover, you know that we were inspired by Dark Horse Presents. We wanted to be able to do something. Dark Horse used to do this very well. DC Comics used to do this very well. And what we wanted to do was create something that popped, that showed a lot of different characters, that made people go, wow, this looks good. And between Grant Shorter, our design guru, who created the logo, and Erin, who jumped in, who has multiple skills and utilized them here, including her design skills, to create this amazing cover that I think really pops, and all of the interior layouts. But I'm very happy with the cover. Thank you, Erin, for throwing on your cape and pushing pixels through thick and thin for us. All right, so
Honestly, buddy, to give a shout out, Grant did a sort of preview of the first one, but 90% of this goes to Matthew. Like, he really stepped up and volunteered and helped out when some of the stuff was falling through the sort of holiday issues. And so Matthew, like, all the best to you, man. You set that up. I literally just knocked it out after you filled the bases. So thank you for that.
And I'd like to add Kristian, who went through every PDF to find some some key panels like you see here, which I loaded onto the website as well. We really wanted to make sure we had a great image. So Kristian did that for us. So thank you for that. So yeah, let's move forward. Let's show what the table of contents looks like. If you go up a little bit, I guess, to page 2 of our PDF, I just want to go through it so people know what they're in for. Oh, look, there's my name. All right, so that's our table of contents, and listing the people that we noted, as well as other people, including Rob Anderson, who came in and really rescued us in some of the publishing quagmire that we were getting caught up in. So if you jump to the next page, Erin, do you want to just talk about the table of contents and what we'll be jumping into? Oh, I think we lost the PDF. Go to slide. There you go.
So the table of contents, just basically, what's in the book. We have all of basically the titles of each comic. We have a short intro from me as the editor, and a short intro for the flash fiction pieces, if I can talk, from A.A. Rubin, or our very own Ari. And then, of course, at the end, we have Buddy's sort of afterward, his thoughts on the whole process, since he is basically our publisher for this anthology. We had a lot of great contributors with this. We had 3 flash fiction pieces. We had a bunch of great stories, great artists, people who came in for lettering, people who came in for illustration, people who just did some color. I mean, there are also some that don't have any color, which it's kind of a splash of surprise right in the middle. So that's kind of nice too. But the artwork is great. And just going through it, like I said, we hit 143 pages. Some of them had covers. Some of them, just had a title page. We've got credit pages for every individual comic that's going to have everybody's contact and social media. So if you find something that you like, you want to see more, you can always find that artist, that writer, that inker, whoever it is. And I saw a comment real quick. All of the art that's on the front is in the book. So everybody who is represented on the front is in the book somewhere. I tried to get everybody on there. I do know that not everybody made the cover. Sorry for that, but everybody's in the book, so you can find them all inside.
I'd like to also note, we tried to be as democratic as possible in this. You'll notice that the order of these takes no specific order that you might see in a normal anthology where you put your most popular character or popular creators up front. We sorted them alphabetically, removing obviously articles like the and a, but we just felt like that was the best way to go. We just sorted it and got everybody exposed here. Now Erin went through the tedious job of hyperlinking every single one of these pages. It'll make your reading experience a lot easier, but not for Erin. But we're going to scroll down, Rob. We're going to show the introduction. They're not going to read it. We're just going to show them that it's there. And then if we have a video for Belly of the Battle of the Beast, is there a video for that? Do we know if there's a video?
I think there is. It wasn't labeled right. I hope this is the right video. I'm in the background literally trying to cut some videos together. So if you see me looking down, please know I'm not being disrespectful. I'm actually working on trying to get these videos up while we're live and re-editing a few so they fit. I hope this is the right one. If not, we're skipping ahead to something. Fingers crossed I got this one right.
Greetings, hello, and how do you do, friends and strangers? My name is Bolu Arielle, and I'm the writer and artist behind The Battle of the Belly of the Beast, a story that you can find in the Comic Book School's 8-page challenge anthology. The Battle of the Belly of the Beast follows an adventure in the life of Kip Kerstrom, man of tomorrow's yesterday from the future, an easily overwhelmed space explorer who teams up with his hyper-competent sidekick Vanessa to save an unfortunately delicious alien prince from the maw of a deadly space creature, all while avoiding the clutches of a trio of evil extraterrestrial assassins. It's a story for you if you enjoy things such as crazy sci-fi, fun action, and an acceptable amount of gross-out humor. Until then.
Haha, yes, success.
All right, it was the right video. I have to tell you, that was other than the audio dropping at the last second, I thought it was a great intro. And I have to tell you, it's funny to hear him talk about it because it really is a very funny story. I enjoyed this one a lot. And Bulu, thank you so much for your intro and thanks for sharing your story. Ari, why don't you lead off and tell us a little bit about the story as Rob scrolls through the PDF. We're not going to stop. You can't read it here. We want you to read it the right way. But Ari, why don't you just talk us through it?
Hey, so this is a story, as Bolu said. It's got an interesting, it's kind of like an inner space type of thing or a Fantastic Voyage where it seems to take place, but instead of being inside of a human, there seems to be an entire world inside of this this creature here. It's a very fun story to start the anthology. You might think that the idea you got a lot of gastric juices and things like that, but it works in here. It's got a kind of fun old action adventure type of cartoony feel to it, and I really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's got a 50s hero vibe to it, and also a bit of slapstick. And I got to tell you, really pulled it together in a way that makes me think that this is definitely a property that will continue on. I imagine he's probably drawn this in the past because everything looks very, very polished and complete, as you can see from these story pages. If you want to jump to the last page there, Rob.
Oh, do we want to show the last page? I thought we weren't going to show.
Oh, yeah, just show it. No one's going to read it. We don't want you to read it. Don't read it here. Read it in the PDF. You could just scroll past it.
There you go.
Quickly.
There you go.
There you go.
Keep it going. You can see how.
And we're on to the next.
A good Pixar movie. All right. Next one, Bron the Lucky and Hail Chaos. Again, another humorous story. This one it was fun in your classic storytelling where it was sort of very meta, right, Ari? It was a storyteller telling a story about telling stories. So there was a lot going on in here. I don't know. Do we have a video introduction for this one, Rob?
Not that I have. Does anyone know if there was a video made? I know a couple people didn't have the time with the holiday. There was a video. Do you have the video? Because it wasn't in what I was given. Yeah, I do know that the art looks really cool.
Erin, you're not on. You have to unmute. What do you want to do this one, Erin?
Go ahead and talk about it. I'll see if I can grab the video real quick.
All right. Ari, do you want to talk us through this one?
What do you got, Ari?
To me, yeah, this was an interesting one too. This is also, I mean, you can see even between the first two how much variety there is in the stories between the first story and the second story. I love that panel up there with the archer. That's one of my favorite panels in the whole anthology. This one has a very fantasy type of vibe to it, but
I'd also like to note that if you zoom in on the skeleton, you'll see that there is an arrow, and then in the third panel on the page, they zoom in on the arrow, and there are literally people on the arrow. It has a Grant Morrison vibe in that there are huge ideas in here, and yet the story is light and fun. The character is well thought through. The main character is well thought through. And it has a sort of a beat to it. What a handsome guy this Bolu is. I agree. But Rob, if you keep scrolling through it, what I think you'll find in this story, there are a lot of big ideas in here, but it's also pulled through with a neat O. Henry twist and a fun Falstaff-like character, wouldn't you say, Ari?
I like the bar scenes. It's kind of goes back and forth between the story and the tavern. That there's multiple layers to the narrative here, and that's something. It's a very complex, layered narrative for such a short piece. And again, you got that creature on the bottom there. I love those big horizontal panels, and I really like that one and the other panel that I mentioned before. I like how those really are nice art.
And I should note that I think Maya colored this one. Look at the way the colors pop. Rob, keep going through it if you want. I mean,
Hold on 1 second. I actually think that they mislabeled it. It's under Braun, possibly. I was able to track it down looking at some stuff. I might actually have the video here. I think it was just mislabeled. I had a couple where they put the person's name instead of the actual video. So I did some digging, and I think I figured it out. Again, let's go see 2 for 2.
Hi, I'm Zach. I'm the creator of Braun the Lucky. Part of the team. Maya was the amazing colorist on this, and my story is basically about a priest for the god of chaos. So the germ of the idea started kind of as a desire to do a traditional D&D in a non-traditional way. So he's a priest, but he doesn't have any magical powers or divine powers or anything like that you'd expect. He can't heal anyone or turn the dead or anything. Like, his power is chaos, basically. What you would expect to happen doesn't happen around him. So the story is really just a story about Braun being brought into this specific moment where a prophecy was supposed to happen, where this human sacrifice was supposed to happen, and jeopardizing this world's survival, and how his involvement alters that predictive future. So that's sort of like the gist of Braun without giving too much away.
Thank you for finding that, Rob. That was awesome. And yes, it was Braun the Lucky. So you figured out the puzzle. This is all written in code.
It really is.
A.
We try to make it as hard on Rob as possible, just to see how he can succeed and raise the bar, and he does every time.
10 minutes before the show, figure it out.
So yeah, that's how we roll on Rob.
We roll.
And Rob, we forgot to even mention, we forgot to mention in the intro, and we should note it at the end, you actually have a book that's solicited in Diamond this month. You'll have to put that into the show link. Sure. People should go check that out. Put that link in there. I tweeted it just yesterday. So we want to move down to the next story.
Next up, we have the Lurkers.
Cam Ridden,
yeah. All right, so let's go to 20. Is this, are we ready? No,
you got to keep going down a little bit further in the PDF.
Maybe 24. I'm trying to get the numbers right. So this is just the end of that last one. There we go.
There you go. Cam Ridden and the Lehman Lurkers. Another light, but also rather deep story. You have a video to roll on this, Rob?
Erin? Did this one have a video too? Because this one, I don't remember there being a video. I don't think we have one on this one, buddy. I'm getting the head shake. No, I think I'm confident this time.
All right, so we don't have an intro. Ari, and Erin, if you guys want to help me get through the description here, we have a wanderer who wanders into a village and entertains, and then there's a neat twist at the end of the story. This one is one of the most O. Henry of the stories, where it has like a neat twist at the end, wouldn't you say, Erin and Ari?
Yeah, this one is nice because even though it's only 8 pages, it lends to a very larger story and a larger world, because it's seen through the eyes of this boy who's watching a person that might become something else. We don't really know what happens as he kind of leads through this. It's beautifully drawn and beautifully colored, and it's just this wonderful story. It pulls you right in to this little boy who's seeing this man travel, but it's kind of a looking back story, but we don't know where they're looking back from, and so you see him kind of discover who this guy is and kind of what he's up against. And I for one am waiting like on bated breath for every next issue, everything that comes out from here, because it was a really interesting story.
I think they are actually planning to do a whole series around this in this world. I know Jack, the writer of this story. I've been in a couple of his anthologies. He does really good anthologies. Arcane Industries is his company, and I believe they are planning to do more with this one. Another fantasy story. I think this was one of the like you were saying. I think this one is very tightly plotted, and it's a really cool character as well.
Yeah, it was a super tight plot. There was no wasted space in any of this, and Jack and Evan really pulled together a truly visual story. And I thought the richness of Evan's art really made Jack Holder's story sing. And I think if you don't follow Evan on Twitter, and everybody's social media is included here, but Evan shows anatomy sketches and different behind the scenes of all of his artwork. So it's definitely worth checking out. So I was really happy with this story as well. So we're going to jump along, and then the next story, I'm opening up the PDF on the side. Oh, Rob AnderSiN. I know that guy. I love that guy. He's awesome.
I will say this challenge has definitely challenged me. The video email didn't come in till one day when it was late already by a day. So I had to do this video after I think it was after Sunday brunch. For some reason, Sunday, the Sunday Comics brunch is a show we do on Sundays. For some reason, my emails come in right while I'm on the show, days late right now. So I raced to do this video. So take pity on me. This was like literally to get it out as fast as I can. But yes, this is my work.
Roll the tape, Rob. You got it.
My name is Mr. AnderSiN. I'm known as the Comics Advocate and Uncanny Devil. But more importantly, before all that began, I was just a creator trying to find my way. And thanks to Comic Book School, I did find my way. Check out my creative journey, see the roadblocks that I had, how Comic Book School inspired me, and all the great art brought to life by all these amazing creators who joined me on this creative journey. This is my answer to the 8-page challenge, and I hope it inspires your creative journey, and I hope it inspires you to take the next 8-page challenge. So for this 8-page challenge, I brought together a whole list of amazing creators, artists in their own right. Some of them create also, so I just don't want to limit anyone, because we're all creators. We all wear different hats in this. For me, I lettered the book, I wrote it, I've been a story editor, and that's all part of your journey, and that's really what I wanted to capture. For this, it's the very basic outline of the journey itself. I show you my life and how my life continues to move on. I think a lot of creators get stuck in the fact that they kind of almost expect life to pause while they're creating, and it just does not happen. I share with you my ups and my downs, some losses and some amazing moments. And I don't do it in a way that's too much into my life. I just give you a bit of a peek, and I want to inspire people to see that if they keep going, they can get to points where they feel like they've accomplished what they wanted to. And for me, I sit here in what I don't call it a studio, it's just my bedroom, but it is a place where I record hundreds of hours where I advocate for fellow creators. Behind me are the books I created, I've been part of. I am so proud to be here, and it all was possible thanks to this creative journey. And Comic Book School played such an amazing role in that. Every October, it was when I went back to school in my mind. It's what inspired me. I've been doing this going on 20 years, believe it or not. I got inspired after September 11th to start writing a comic book again after giving it up for a long time. And it took me a while to get where I am today. And a lot of it was a lot of big chunks of things happening in life. And times were also different. But I finally got there because there was nothing more than I wanted to create. And I would like to thank the creative team that helped me bring this together. I was the writer, of course. Chuck was our editor. Mike did page 1. KB got page 2. Peter got page 3. Martha did 4 and 5 for me. Danny got 6. I had my script for 7. And Chris Mad ends us very strong. Thank you, Buddy, for all you've done over the years. Remember, there's only going to be one you. In all the existence of time, there's only going to be one out of hundreds of millions of people. So go out there and tell your story. We want to see it in the next page challenge. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy my creative journey. There you go.
Well done, Rob. That was really good. You did a great job on that intro. And I thought what was great about your story, Rob, was you took this meta approach where you were expressing anybody's creative journey, but it was your creative journey, and it touched on, how you started out. And what I thought was really well done was how you integrated the art and storytelling from all the different creators. I think we got lost there. So go to 34, 36. Yeah, there you go. There's me. That's me doing Creator Connection. There's Rob going back and working on it. And what's great is you can see he wrote the story and obviously tailored it for the creators that would be working on it. Jump to the next slide. There's even there's a bit of a text piece. I think the next one is actually really cool where you actually show the script. And I thought, wow, this is super creative. Rob is a super creative creator.
Yeah, that's what happens when an artist bails on you and you have to get real clever real quick. You go, why don't I show the script? It fits here. Here we go.
And yet it worked. I thought it really worked. If you jump to the next one, you'll see.
Yeah, there it is.
It's literally the script for the page. And I thought that was super cool.
And that's the really interesting thing about Rob's is that because he was using so many different resources and trying to highlight all these different people. I mean, it was 2020. Let's face it, a lot of people had a lot of things going on this year, and not everybody was able to do the things that they wanted to, or to commit fully to the projects that they wanted to do. But Rob, even though he might have had somebody who, quit on him for whatever reason, he still had a way around it. He still, man up, so to speak, and said, this is what it's going to be. I'm showing the process. And part of that process is making sure that, if you have somebody that can't come through, you still get the comic book done. And Rob was there for that. And Rob showed everybody how that works. And I, for one, appreciate that. I thought that was cool.
And I love this last page. When you read the story, this last page is so important that it only be pencils. Because it's literally a moment where I transition back to a beginning. Because in comics, we do that. We go through cycles and we keep coming back to a new beginning, where we're starting over, where suddenly I'm the guy behind panels and they're asking me questions, and half the time I'm looking for Buddy. Where's Buddy? Where's Buddy to answer this for me?
Well,
can I just add for Rob's that when you're doing this, often as a writer, you're sort of running the team. When you're making these independent comics, or you're coordinating with the penciler and the inker, and often it's the writer. Say more often than not, it's the writer coordinating the rest of the team. At least in an independent project like this, and it's really impressive for Rob to have been able to do this with 8 different people or 7 different people after the person dropped out. To be able to coordinate that many people in such a for something like this in this short amount of time to coordinate that with all of these different people, it makes it. I mean, we were saying, 8 pages is more than you think. Well, it's a lot more than you think when you do it in this fashion with so many people.
That's right. And Rob showed agility in telling a story. So did Erin, actually. I mean, took a lot of agility to do what we did, and then later on, agility to accomplish what we did with the flash fiction. So, Rob, you want to jump to the next one? It's one of my favorite writers in the whole world. in the next. Oh, look at that! One of my favorite writers in the whole world.
And who is that guy again? I don't think I've heard of him.
That guy is Buddy Scalera. I got to tell you, I love this guy. He's smart and witty, and there are other things that I say you like about me, Erin and Ari, all the time for every meeting.
We have to talk about that later.
Anyway, there's a comic book that I'm working on with Andy Siebert, who helped me co-create Midlife Crisis. Is basically a superhero named Crisis who's going through a midlife crisis. And in building this character, we had to build a whole bunch of other superheroes that went with it. And Andy had expressed an interest in doing something on his own. You know, he really wanted to be able to dimensionalize a story. So I gave him the basic bones of a story. We took the character Hibagon, which is our tanker character or our Hulk character. And it's worth noting, like, I don't have to write the Hulk. I can create my own character that is a proxy for a character that is super strong. And now we have our own character. The Hibagon character is our own. He's not the Hulk. He's a big, strong character. You figure out whatever he is. But anyway, I wrote the bones of an outline, and Andy basically took it, figured he didn't need any dialogue, and he just drew the story and told it straight out with pictures. He was on the fence whether or not he was going to do it in black and white or tones. But in the end, he just chose a very limited color palette. And I thought it worked really well. Keep going through it. It's basically a fun little narrative about the Hibagon character. And again, as we said earlier, it's easy to create an entire universe. World building is a lot of fun, right, Erin? But the reality is, it's really hard to build a story with just 8 pages. But Andy managed to do it just based on a story plot idea that I had. And he did a great job, I thought.
The other fun thing about this one is that it's so simple. There's no dialogue, right? And it's a simple, sort of straightforward story. But I don't know whether it's the color or the way he's drawn it. You get so invested so quickly. Like with the first 2 pages, you're like, oh my God, what happens? Like you care for this character really quickly. It's not just an archetype, you know, it's a person, Hibagon. You want to know what happens to him. And it's really good storytelling, visual storytelling at its best.
And I'll say this to Buddy's credit. Your job as a writer is to inspire the artist. And Buddy inspired an artist without ever using a word that was going to be on the screen. Literally bowing out to let the artist run away with it and trusting the artist and getting rewarded with an amazing story. It is a skill few people have. Not anyone can write a comic, and not anyone can write a silent comic. Those are 2 pretty hard things. So good job, Buddy. I like it.
Well, all the credit really goes to Siebert. Kid's pretty amazing. He's going to be something someday. But you can check out Midlife Crisis. It's at Comixology.
And the thing about this, like it shows you another dimension of comics where you don't have a common complaint that I hear about comics is that there are too many words in the bubbles, and it shows you what you can do without any words in the bubble. So just let the art carry the story.
Yeah, he really is a great visual storyteller. So if you jump to page 56, Rob, there'll be Meat Bucket Mega Babes in the Virus Dimension. It'll be Jared Alvin's story. I don't know. Do we have a video for this one?
Yes, we actually have one for this one. This is one I had to cut, so I apologize. It's going to be centered left. I know it's a little off center, but I'm trying to do this as I'm going, kids. So cut me some slack, but here we go.
Hi, my name is Jared Elvin from Micmacs. My comic story features the Meat Bucket Megababes, who are a group of leading ladies from my past comics, graphic novels, and other art. Inspired by current events, a virus has taken over the Meat Bucket multiverse, which mutates its sufferers into grotesque Lovecraftian entities. It's up to the Megababes to travel to another dimension in order to stop it, but what dangers do they put themselves in by going there? I hope you enjoy, and please visit www.micmacs.com to see more of my art, including the Meat Bucket Megababes pin-up artwork on Patreon.
I just want to say that I purposely didn't watch these videos because I wanted to watch them with everyone in the live stream. And I absolutely love that Jared has a shirt with his characters printed on it. I just thought that totally fit this story. And I missed this story initially when he had submitted it. He did everything right. And I did everything pretty much wrong when it came to project management. And he was like, oh, it was Meat Bucket Megababes. And I was like, oh, no. But it turned out to be such a delightful, fun, off-kilter story that really worked. Erin, I think you spent a lot of time with this story as well.
Yeah, I proved the story, and honestly, from the second I laid my eyes on it, it's quirky and fun. And, you know, you hear Meat Bucket Megababes, and everybody kind of gets a different first impression. They're like, lots of people think a lot of different things, but it's just a fun story. Like, the characters are fun. The character design is fun. They all sort of have something to say without jumping all over each other. And it's this little ensemble piece where they go and save the universe. And I really liked it. And I know that everybody kind of goes, Meat Bucket Megababes. Like, Jared, you have got to tell us where you came up with that, because we all kind of stumbled over it for a bit, and then it's in the virus dimension. It's totally relatable to this year, and the artwork pops off the page, and it's just everything about it is fun. So yeah, well done, Jared.
And Jared, I thought what was amazing about this was you managed to tell a story that had a beginning, middle, end, and a funny twist at the end. I mean, it's a genuinely funny story. And I think he even said in the video that this is the first Meat Bucket Megababe story. So I'm excited, man. This free downloadable PDF is going to be worth money one day. It's going to be a valuable commodity.
Well, we get to print it one day. We've talked about it. If you guys are out there and you give us enough of a pull and you make exciting noise about this, we've talked about getting into printed editions and getting it out through the entire con circuit. They're coming back. We want to be able to meet you all and meet up at tables and sign the books in solid form. So make noise, guys. You like this. Go on social media, make some noise.
I think this story had art that everyone loved this. You know, when we were going through this as a team, when we had the editorial meetings, everyone commented on how much they liked the art in this particular story. It's got this whole kind of retro thing to it, yeah. So I mean, it was something that the whole team, when we were going through it, some people kept bringing this one up.
Yeah, it was bonkers, and you can see it being an animated series on Adult Swim, and see there be action figures for it. I mean, it's got a big ensemble cast, and each one of the cast members was dimensionalized just enough so you understood what her role was, and it just worked. I just thought it worked from the beginning to end. But speaking of working from beginning to end and nonstop, if you go to slide 65, Rob, we have a very special story that we have to unpack here about the day in the life of Mr. Stupendous.
Nice.
Mr. Stupendous is on right now. Ari, tell us a little bit about.
I think Rob has the video for it now, actually.
Oh, there's video.
Yeah.
Even better.
I am downloading it. Vent for me. Give me a minute.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about you and what you did with Arielle and Kristian. I don't know if I can pronounce that name.
Dokolomansky, I believe.
I was going to say. Tell us about Mr. Stupendous.
So this is a story about the everyday life of the most powerful man in the world, Mr. Stupendous. As you can probably tell from the name, it's a bit of a spoof. It's a bit of a more human story. It focuses more on his life when he's not Mr. Stupendous, the trouble that he's having in his marriage and at his job. And there's all sorts of problems that you face. Like we know Superman always changes in a phone booth. Where's all the phone booths? There's no phone booths anymore. Where are you going to change your costume? You're up all night fighting crime and you got to go to work the next day. When are you sleeping? You're going to fall asleep at work because you can't fall asleep when the big green reptilian monster is punching you in the face. I mean, you might if he knocks you out, but that wouldn't be good. And all of these types of regular everyday problems that someone like that would encounter in their life as Mr. Stupendous.
And what I loved about this, Ari, was, something I had said earlier, and I say this in all the panels, is, you may not get the opportunity to write Spider-Man or the Hulk or Superman, but there is nothing from stopping you from creating your own character that takes parts of different characters that you care about. Make your own version of a character. And I thought Mr. Stupendous was sort of close to Superman, but not close to Superman. There was more humor in it. There was more fun in it. And I just felt like what you created with Mr. Stupendous is something that could clearly go on as an ongoing. Is this being thought of as an ongoing project?
I would like it to be. I'd like it to be kind of an ongoing episodic thing where there's, different episodes in his life that go on. I just, first of all, before we go any further, I should just, say that Arielle did a great job on this. She did a really, really nice job on the art. We talked about how we wanted it to look, and from designing the character even to the layouts, we were going back and forth with different references of different things that we had. There's one page, if you keep going, that's a repeated panel that shows there's one repeated panel on the bottom there, but there's a repeated panel believe on the next on the page after he's on the roof.
I mean, even if you just look at that
one right here, this is one of my favorite panels.
Yeah, it's great. It's so good. And even the one just prior to, if you went up one page too, Rob, before we go into this one, just look at what she does with color and light, showing the weather change. Go up one more.
And we do have, by the way, the video ready whenever you guys are ready to play.
Okay, so you can see how she uses repeat panels very effectively there in the bottom three. It starts, the sky is lighter, gets a little darker, and then she uses sound effects. Great job with this. I just thought, you wrote it in a way that helped her to shine, and I thought she did a great job of pulling it together, Ari.
And I think Kristian did a really good job with the lettering and the effects as well. I think he that added a lot to it as well. And I think that repeated panel that we use there, and then on the page, on the nine panel grid page, that's something.
Ahead, Rob, are you able to jump ahead? I think we want to go to 67 or 68.
Before or after, Ari?
Before 2 pages before that.
71.
The one you had on before. No, one before that.
Okay.
I believe. This one right here. Yeah, this is something I've been trying to incorporate more into my comics writing. So I've been thinking a lot about as someone who works in both prose and comics, I think a lot about when I have an idea for a story, should it be a comic story or should it be a prose story? And things like this are things that you can only do in comics, where each panel was almost exactly the same, except for you can't really see it there, but the clock advances throughout his workday and as it goes through the workday. And things like that are things that you can only do in comics that you can't do necessarily in other mediums. So that was something that I wanted to do here. And Arielle just showed, and it was like, when I always describe something and then you don't know whether the artist is going to have the exact same vision as you. She's way she put it on the page was like exactly how I imagined it. It was a really good working relationship, and I hope that we can work together again on this or on on something else.
And Rob, if you pull down Arielle's quote, I want to just point out something in the art. She somehow manages to get a lot of information on the page. There's a lot of room in the top. that sort of draws your eye down. She avoids tangents, does a very good job of this. Like the work that she did here is very understated, and I think we're lucky to have had it in our anthology. So if you keep moving forward, Rob, you'll see what a great job Ari and Arielle did together on this project. I thought it was super high level, high quality work.
Thank you, buddy. Yeah, that's the Nemesis character she was talking about in her comment, the big green guy.
You want to run the video now, guys?
Yeah, why don't you run the video?
I did
That's all right. We want to see you again anyway, Ari. Go.
That's all right. That's all right.
Yeah.
Being a crime-fighting hero ain't always easy. Sure, you've been blessed with the ability to fly and superhuman strength, but you're also working a day job on no sleep trying to keep food on the table, and your wife's getting suspicious about all those late nights. Join A.A. Rubin, Arielle Lupkin, and Kristian as they document a day in the life of Mr. Stupendous. You'll find that despite being the most powerful man in the world, his problems are...
You missed the last line. Despite being the most powerful man in the world, you'll find that his problems are all too human.
Wow. You must be a writer.
Well, I pretend to be, at least.
I got to tell you, Ari, did you create that mask for this, or did you already have that mask and you just found a use for it?
That mask is in my house. That was my son's mask. He's 3. He's obsessed with superheroes. One thing that I found, but in my day job as a teacher, that you could do a lot with props. I have all sorts of swords and capes and Victorian greatcoats and things of that nature. So, you got to put them to use when you have them, right? I mean, and you have the. It was even one of his colors. I didn't have the exact color of his mask in the comic, but it was the color of his boots and trunks there.
It was super. And we love your intro. And all these intros will go on YouTube where you guys can watch them as many times as you wish with no sort of stuttering in the video. So, Rob, if you want to jump to page 24, that's the beginning of Parasomniac by Matthew Timpanelli. Matthew was instrumental in helping us pull everything together, right, Erin?
Matthew saved this comic because we dropped the ball right after, it was Thanksgiving, I guess. And we were like, okay, we need somebody to put it together. And everybody was busy. And Matthew was like, I think I have a hot minute. And he laid out the whole thing. And he put everything in, and he let us know everything that was missing. The man was, instrumental in bringing this together, because if it wasn't for him, we'd have been 2 months out right now. So everybody should give a thank you to Matthew, because he helped us finish this. So thank you, Matthew. And he wrote a great comic that's submitted. So yeah.
Yeah, Parasomniac is really it's striking how Matthew and Sam Parada and Phil Burnett, who's also all over this anthology, used light and color very effectively in this story. You can see it starts off in black and white, but the spots of color really make the story pop. And they told the story on multiple dimensions, right, Erin? I mean, it wasn't just a flat story. I mean, they really, right there. When that color starts to creep into the story, it becomes significant. Like it's like Wizard of Oz. We go from black and white into color, and all of a sudden it's grabbed our attention.
It's like kind of like Frank Miller's like in Sin City a little bit. Yeah.
And speaking of grabbing attention, we do have a video for this one.
We do. All right. Well, let's roll the tape.
Parasomniac's about a man going through an existential crisis that has nightmares, and these nightmares seem to haunt him in his real life.
And I think deeper it's about fear, about what's at the core of fear, and then, you know, how to deal with those fears.
All right, look at that.
Holy cow! This guy really, that was really good. He did a great job with the comic and a great job with that intro video. Wow.
Matthew is a man of many talents.
Anyway, Parasomniac and we see it a couple times in these stories, an existential journey, I think. And it wasn't just sort of a simple story. There was a lot of depth to it. And I was really impressed with the way it came out. And I think he left it open-ended with a to be continued on it, right? Yeah. So
it's another one without a lot of dialogue, where the story really takes advantage of the visual medium in the story. You know, I think it's a really interesting story. I think one thing when you look at all of these back to back is you really see all of the different types of stories and all the different styles that you have from one to another. It really gives you a sense of the range in the anthology, and all of the different things that comics can do. And I also want to add my thanks to Matthew for the work he did, for the design work, because it would not exist without him.
And Matthew says, thanks to the whole community for getting me to the finish line. It was my duty to do the same for the community. And we're happy to have you, Matthew. You're a shining example of what can be accomplished.
yeah, it was a good piece of work, Matthew. And I think the great thing about it was you are clearly a designer, and that came through in the story. You were telling the story. Not you weren't just writing a story, you were writing a visual story. And I think that really came through. So we jumped to 84, Ragnarok Come, by Chris Burgos, who I think has 2 stories in this, with pencil or inker colors J.P. Vilchis. Do we have a video for Ragnarok Come? I'm gonna do that with my eye. I don't.
I'm gonna say no unless Erin tells me otherwise. Oh no, she's saying yes.
We do?
Oh boy. Oh boy. Let me see, because sometimes seeing the art helped me know what the other label was. See, 999. Could it be okay? Could it be the CBS Challenge V2 as a title name? Because this art looks similar.
Put it in the chat for you, Rob.
Oh,
Should be called Ragnarok Come.
Well, all right. Talk about it, Ari, while I fix this.
I remember when Chris was talking about this originally on the forums. This is one that he was really actively talking about on the forums. Wanted to tell a Viking story. It's Ragnarok, and if you're familiar with the Vikings and their concept of Ragnarok and Doom, there's a lot of those themes that appear in the story. And personally, I really like that. I'm a big fan of that type of story, of that type of literature, and I think that this story, this story really does a good job of being authentic to that tradition whilst telling a new story as well.
And I really love J.P. Vilch's work with the heavy blacks and the bold colors. There's a bit of Mike Mignola in here. There's a bit of Teddy Christensen in here, the Sandman artist. I mean, I was really impressed with the way that came together, and it pops. It doesn't overwhelm, and basically, it really focuses your eye in a graphic design sort of way. And I thought that made that story really special.
So there's one thing about this one that is almost the opposite of some of our other stories. This one did have a lot of text. It had a lot of dialogue. It had a lot of exposition. It has a lot of thought. But the way that they've planned the panels and the way that the text leads you through everything, it doesn't get overwhelming. And so I really appreciated the fact that that you can read this comic book, and as you read, it leads you through the visuals. So even if is a panel that maybe doesn't have a background, it doesn't need it, because the story is speaking to you so well that you don't miss anything. Like normally when you read a comic book with a lot of dialogue, you kind of have to figure out, where your eye has to go. But everything leads you to the next, to the next, to the next. And so there's no question about where you're going or what you should read next. And it just tells the story very simply, even though there is more dialogue than I think some of our other stories. So I appreciated that, the way that it was laid out.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Erin. And Chris really wrote to the strengths of his artists, I think. And the next story, actually, right after this, is also a story by Chris. Again, we sorted alphabetically. It just happened that way. But I thought he has a clear voice. The characters speak in a way, in dialogue, that makes sense for who they are and the time period they're in. So it really pulls it together. And it seems like he really did write to the strengths of the artists.
I do have the video. We are ready to go with the video.
Go to the videotape.
I'm Chris Burgos, and I'm the creator-writer on Ragnarok Come, and it was drawn by the amazing J.P. Vilches. Ragnarok Come is the story of a Viking soldier who has been sent to scout a town while it's being decimated by dueling monsters. He's beaten up, he's got no more weapon, his squad has been destroyed, and he's got to make it back out of the town before the rest of his army start firebombing the town with flaming arrows when he stumbles upon a young girl. Does he get out? Does he take her with him? What happens?
He did a good job with that intro. That was really good. And Ragnarok Come, obviously Ragnarok's going to be an ongoing character, and I think this duo should continue working together and creating together.
I agree.
All right, so we go to slide 94, Rob, for Teddies, the intro to Teddies.
Do we have a video for this, Erin? Okay, so talk about it while I get that video apparently too. Get it done. So, Ari, tell me a little bit about this book.
This one's really interesting because in a lot of ways it's the one of the more adult stories in the anthology, but it's also about teddy bears. So there's a kind of it's an interesting juxtaposition between the ideas in the story, and it takes you on this kind of it's a fantasy journey, but it's a really original fantasy journey because the characters aren't the types of characters you usually find in a fantasy story. It's a couple of teddy bears and a young boy, but there's a lot of crazy stuff that happens in this. Like if you scroll through to some of the art pages, there is a lot going on, and it's really it's one of the best things that I can say about a story is that it's unique and it's unlike. You hear that a lot. It's unlike anything you've ever. This story is really unique to me. It's like something that I have not seen a concept like this before, and that is really, really hard to do, especially now. Everyone says every story's been done, every story's been told. Well, not this one, and you should read it and check it out.
I thought Mike Ponce did a great job of pulling Chris's vision together. You needed to have that great juxtaposition of whimsy and adultness to it, right? Like it's something you could read. The kids won't get some of the references, but I think you could see a lot of sophisticated storytelling happening here, where you have that juxtaposition, a little bit like manga, where you have the highly detailed background and the differently drawn characters. Erin, did you have any thoughts on the design? Because I know that you had some input on this one as well.
I did. So Mike, Ponce, and Ari and I were all on a call a few weeks ago, and I got to draw Teddy so for that program, which was actually really fun. The design seems so simplistic, but getting it right took me a little longer than I thought. So the light and shadow that he plays with, like it is black and white, and I'm a big proponent of color. I love color, but I didn't need it in this story. everything about it shouts out that it's a comic, and you can read everything, and you really get an idea of the distance and the background and the importance of each character and each panel and each page, because he plays with the depth of tone in the black and white, and so it really showcases Mike's skills. Like, Mike might be humble. I know he's going to say something about, oh, it's not much. No, dude, you did a really good job on this. And Chris, the story is so good that it just pulls you right in. So, I mean, I like everybody that worked on this, because it was just such an interesting story. And again, like I said, everybody says, oh, this is so unique. This is so unique. I had never read a story like this before, and I'm looking forward to the next installment for that one.
It's a good piece of work. Rob, you want to do we have a video for this one, or?
We do. It's up and loaded. Here we go.
I'm Chris Burgos. I'm the writer and creator of Teddies, which was beautifully drawn by Mike Ponce. Teddies is a story about everyone's favorite childhood toy and guardian, the stuffed teddy bear. This story is about a bear who basically gets kidnapped while defending a boy from the monsters that lurk underneath his bed. And the chapter that's in the anthology is actually the second chapter in the story overall. It's about his protege's first steps into the nightmare world on a quest to go and rescue the bear.
Look at that. I love his intros. He did such a good job. If you go up one, there you go. You want to go to 104, Rob. There you go. The Anachronist, Trapped in Time. I think Philip had joined us, I guess, not in the very beginning, right, Erin? I think he joined a little bit into the progress and then caught up. What was so amazing was the immense level of detail and the rich coloring. I mean, he did everything, which I think was just tremendous. Erin, you want to just talk about that for a second?
Yeah, so a lot of us, especially as we're creatives, kind of want to take over and do our own thing. And, we have to learn to delegate. But luckily for us, we didn't do that with this one. The story and the color, Rob, I think we skipped back to an older page. They work together really well in this comic. And I think one of the fun things about it is that it's a time travel comic, but it has a lot of different times all together. But they still have a cohesive story. You can still kind of understand what's going on. Again, this is one of those that we get to the end and it might not be the end. I'd love to see the next, I read it and I want to know what the next part of the story is. So it really sort of combines all those elements, and everything is clear, and everything is I mean, it's a professional level comic. It's not something where we have a couple of people who did come in late to the challenge, but they didn't skimp on what they provided even in a smaller amount of time. So I really liked the story.
We do have a video for this one, so we can go ahead and play that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and play it.
My name is Phil Burnett. You can find me at philipspace.deviantart.com. I'm on Facebook. I illustrated a story called The Anachronist. It's titled Trapped in Time. It's about a girl from the future and her cowboy partner who get trapped in the medieval era and have to essentially escape. Worked around that, knowing where I was going to, or developed a story based off of an ending that I had in mind, and then built it from there.
And to Jarrett, and I think I'm saying this right, Jarrett, you can download that. It's actually, during the program today, I went in and I edited every single place this is playing. It is now part of the actual, the thread of where it is. Just reload it when you're done, or come back to the video where you're watching it, reload it, and you'll have the link to the site right there. You guys can download it today. You don't have to wait. It's available right now.
One thing that I want to say about this one is it is really hard to do a time travel story. When you do there were a number of people who had ideas for time travel stories. I think this was the only one that actually got into the book. But this one is, to pull off a time travel story is probably the hardest kind of story to write, because of the way that the paradoxes and potential paradoxes, things like that work. In order to, to be able to tell a story that's coherent and still have all the jumps in time, that really, that takes a lot of skill, and I think that's evident in the storytelling here.
And I will add, I think if you go back to page 109, Rob, I just thought that there was a really nice sequence, and I don't know if you touched on it, but where she breaks the lock, the key in the lock. And I just think that that right there in the center, where she's not saying I'm trying to pick the lock, and she's not saying, oh no, I broke. It was really very effective storytelling, and I thought what Philip had pulled together was remarkable, and I really liked the sequence, and I like all of his camera angles as well. I thought that those were very effective camera angles. All good, thumbs up. All right, so we're getting through there. We're almost done. Only got about 3 or 4 more hours to go. All right, slide 113, The Twilight of the Gods Prophecy. That was by Andreas and Gaston. Actually, Andreas had actually done quite a bit of work for us as well, helping to pull together all the credits and all the details, which was really greatly appreciated. And another person who just leapt in when we needed help, right, Ari?
And he did a great job. He jumped in, Chris Burgos as well, with pulling those credits together.
Yep.
So, you know, a lot of people really stepped up when we needed them to. I gotta say, with this one, I really love that that orange color in the background there, and the way, even from the first page, how that kind of really jumps out at me, and it's sort of done consistently throughout the beginning, as it really sets the tone for the entire piece. There.
Yeah, if you look here, I thought what was great about what they were doing in this story is look at the difference in different types of panels that they used. And it was very effective. It was integrated well into the story. It was not distracting at all, but it kept your attention. It was visually very interesting, the way they pulled that together and assembled the story.
And we do have a video, buddy, if you want to go ahead and play it.
Roll the video then.
All right, and here we go.
Hi guys, my name is Andres, and I am the writer and letterer of Twilight of the Gods Prophecy. The art of the story is from a fellow countryman of mine called Gaston. The colors were provided by Maya Opachik, hope I didn't butcher that. And this story started when Gaston told me that he wanted to draw dwarves and elves and orcs, and I'm not that much into that, so I tried to give him a story that was respectful of the subject matter, but in the end, I took advantage of the twist in the ending to add some humor there and to show where my feelings truly lie with the subject matter. Hope you like it. Thank you.
I love that intro, and it's nice to know a little bit of background history on it, but it was a really well done story, very well thought through. And even though he didn't like elves and orcs and things like that, I thought he pulled together a really fine story, considering that it wasn't the subject matter he would ordinarily be attracted to.
One of the other cool things about this one is that there's the prophecy, which kind of reads as you go, but the character's speaking, and so it's kind of this dual thing through the comic where you read the prophecy and you read the characters as they live sort of their little lives in the story. And so you kind of get through the whole thing and you realize that it's one story, but you have these two dialogues as you go through. And I thought that was really neat. And visually, it was really well laid out, so you can see sort of the juxtaposition of those two things.
I think another thing that's important about this one is if you hear in the video when he said, you know, he's already really wanted to draw elves, and I don't really like elves. What am I going to do? You know, it's something that Buddy always says at the beginning of the Creator Connection panel, your space robot unicorn little thing that you do, you know, and people come up to each other and they're like, okay, what do you do? What do you? Oh, I don't do that. And then they don't never talk to each other again. I think it's really great that they followed through on that and found a way to work it for both of them, where you know what, maybe he didn't do elves before, but now he has a story that he likes with elves, and that's another thing that he could do. He took what the artist wanted to do, and he was able to adapt to that, and to make a story that in the end that they're both happy with. And I think that's a good lesson for all of the creators, both the writers and the artists, that, you know, if you are creative enough, there should be a way to collaborate about any type of story. if you want to work with someone. And I know that that's a lesson that that Buddy tries to teach us at the beginning of every Creator Connection, and I know that it's one, just having been through and talking to a lot of artists and a lot of writers throughout the years at his panels, that it's one that we don't always do as great a job as following through on that. And it's nice to see a team that did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to see someone who rose to that challenge. It's not something they normally would have done, but they worked together and made a really great comic out of it. I agree.
I agree. And great point, Ari, and thanks for complimenting me. I will send you a check later tomorrow morning for saying nice things about me.
I will settle for one of those cool comic book school T-shirts.
Oh, is that it? That's the big? All right. You got it. All right. Certainly not least, this is the last comic story. We'll have a little bit on flash fiction. Won't take quite as long. But KDS worked on this. He pretty much did everything. And before I jump into the story, I should ask, Rob, do you have a video for KDS for The Unfixed Man?
Yo no sé.
Okay. All right. Well, let's just introduce it. I think one of the things about KDS is he also came into the challenge a little bit late and decided that he was going to do everything. And I think he might have even brought in an editor to help coach him. I think that was one of the things he did. But I felt like this was a real existential journey. Like Rob went through an existential journey, a personal journey. And I think that is reflected in the journey in this story. What do you guys think?
So I felt like not only was the character going on an existential journey in this one, but the entire world was kind of dealing with a whole range of issues. It was interesting the way he decided to draw the different people. And it took me a minute to really sort of dig into this graphic style, because it's not one that I would normally go for. But the color and some of the action lines and things that he used brought me around to not only being more interested in what was going on in the world, but why exactly these characters were reacting the way they were. So I really ended up liking it. I didn't think I would at the beginning. I'll be honest. It's not really my style, but I really enjoyed it. So.
And what he did here, I thought, was very interesting in that he decided to just do it all himself. And he had said there was a lot of work. It was more work than he had expected. But I think in the end, he had something that was truly his voice. And I think he said he learned a lot during the process. And it made him a better creator. Like, he did all the design, all the coloring, all the lettering. And I think that's something is very brave. But still, he had an effective story to tell. So he had a strong beginning, middle, and end. And he told it well.
Yeah, and I think it came out really well. I think it's it's really, you could, one thing when you do have if you can do it yourself, then you have complete creative control over it yourself, and you could tell your story. And I think that there's a unity that comes from it, that and I think, I mean, I wish I was able to do that. I'm not, but it so takes a lot of talent for someone to be able to do both of those things.
And speaking of talent, Ari, we're going to get to the flash fiction section. And Ari, did you do a video to lead in the flash fiction or your flash fiction piece?
I did a video for my flash fiction piece. I didn't do an overall flash fiction video. I don't know if either of the other two.
What is flash fiction, and how the heck did we get flash fiction in a comic book?
Okay, so very quickly, flash fiction is a very, very short story. We limited people to there's different definitions, but we limited people to 500 words. So we were talking before about the challenges of writing a short story. In a flash fiction piece, you have even less space. So basically, we wanted 500 words, which is about 1 page of typed and printed material, along with 1 full page illustration. Basically, over the summer, I was taking a class in Ray Bradbury and creative storytelling. And one thing that I noticed during that class, especially with the early Bradbury stories, is that they were often accompanied by a single full-page illustration, either in something like the October Country or something like that, where each story has one, or in the old pulps that they used to be published in. If anybody remembers the old sci-fi pulps, they used to have an illustration piece. And I noticed that there were also people, and Buddy also noticed on the forums, that wanted to do something that weren't going to be able to get a comic done in time. And this was a way to get them in. I mean, I'm not going to go through the whole introduction here, but there's a long tradition of prose and illustration going together in books. You think even someone like Charles Dickens worked with an illustrator for all but 2 of his novels. So it's something that goes back a long way, that sort of fell out of favor in the 20th century, but we're bringing it back. It's part of a movement to bring it back, really. And actually, I'm really happy with the pieces that we ended up with here.
And you edited this section, Ari. I think it's important to note that you not only came up with the idea, but you owned this. We have 3 flash fiction pieces. Do we have intros? I think the first one is the Black Knight?
Yep, the Black Knight.
Joyce Dawkins. The second, I think
Yeah,
George definitely
he
has
had a video. He had a video.
Yeah, I know there's a video for George. Rob, do you see George's video?
Yep, I've got George's video ready to go.
All right, roll it when you're ready, Rob.
Hello, my name is Joyce Dawkins. I'm the writer of The Black Knight. This story is based off a short story I had to write for one of my college courses during my sophomore year of college back in 2017. It's about a man who was born on a slave ship and is rescued by a knight. This knight, he trains the boy to be a knight like him. And the short story is basically talking about his origin, his horse, his sword, and his quest. And his quest being that he'll go back to the land where his master came from and save it.
What's interesting about The Black Knight is that George wrote it, but George is also an artist. George does a comic called The Desert Fox, which you can see in everybody's bio. We have links. So he actually was multi-talented. He was able to write and draw The Desert Fox, which he didn't do for our anthology, but he worked with Philip Burnett, which I thought Philip did a wonderful spot illustration. Rob, if you want to go to slide 134 for us. There you go, 134. Beautiful work with light and dark there. I thought that was real nice. And then if you go to 135, you'll see the flash fiction page. You don't want to read it. You want to read it in the anthology, but we want you to see that it's there.
And George was on Geek Speak and went really into the process and what he does. So if you guys want to check out Geek Speak, there was one with George in it, and it was about this actual challenge. So he went really deep into talking to us about how he worked on it. And it's funny that wall of text, there's a lot that goes into it again. It's not just something someone put up there. You can spend days just ripping that apart and putting it back together.
Hey, Rob, can you put a link to that in the comments so people can find that? Thank you. All right, the next one is.
Can I just say something else about George's before we move on? Is that you notice how he said he had written a longer story and then he cut it down even more for the Flash Fiction Challenge? We were talking about this before. William Faulkner once said that novelists are all failed short story writers, and that at its essence, the short story is the more is the truer form, short story and poetry. He was actually probably stole that from Poe, because Poe was really into short story. Also would say that the short story is the highest form of literature. And it's interesting, as you sit with a story for a long time, you can really distill it down to the essence, and often it will work even better as a flash fiction than it did as a short story than a novel, that kind of a thing. So I thought that was a really interesting thing to go back to what we were talking about at the beginning that George said in his intro.
I agree. All right, let's go to 136 by this fella named A. Rubin, who I believe has an introduction, right?
Yeah.
It is up, but again, it's going to be a little choppy. I do apologize for that. We had to do a quick convert. I didn't have the time to properly do it. The audio should be good, though. I checked the audio this time. Here we go. Giddy up.
Two wizards stare at each other across a dusty road under the clock tower. This town ain't big enough for the two of them. Or is it? Find out in The Duel, written by A.A. Rubin, illustrated by Mike Ponce.
And there we go.
Ari, so much personality into your stuff. It is a delight to watch this in real time.
Well, I told you we went through the whole thing about the props, and I also want to apologize for butchering Mike's name. I recorded that video before we did the live stream, so I pronounced it incorrectly there. I apologize for that. But I thought Mike did a great job illustrating the story. I gave him.
Yeah, let's go to 137, Rob. Can you go to slide 137 for us, and we'll check out Mike's art?
And I gave him two very different worlds to mash up here. A classic spaghetti western, Clint Eastwood, narrow eyes staring across the road, a gunslinger thing, and fantasy wizards with cloaks and staffs and pointy hats and that type of thing. And I thought he did a great job of putting it all together in the illustration there.
And then, Rob, we want to go to the next slide. Just show the text on 138. Yep, there you go. And then,
and again, this has a twist ending, so we read it, and hopefully you don't see it coming.
And then we go to 139 with a creator named D. Alley. Do we know anything about D. Alley? I think there's an intro video from D. Alley.
Actually,
Nah, you don't need to see that.
the video's having problems playing, so we're going to have her narrate it for us.
All right, D. Alley, give it to us.
Sorry, I'm in one of those creative phases where I've got a million names. So basically, this is a short story from a very large epic that I'm working on. Buddy helped me learn what it is to cut a story down, and Ari helped me actually cut it down because, oh my God, that's a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. But I have a whole bunch of drawings. I have drawings of ships from every year of my life. My dad used to have one of those model ships, up on one of our mantles. And I used to draw it all the time, trying to figure out where the ropes go and who does this and who does that. And so I'd drawn this ship, and I realized that it was the ship that I was talking about sort of in my short story. So we threw that in there. But basically, it is the story of two people on a ship talking about a rescue mission and whether or not they want to go, and why it's maybe not a good idea. And then a little bit of a twist at the end of kind of who they are and where they come from, and why it's such a problem to go rescue these people that they're getting a radio transmission from. So read the story, enjoy.
Another side of yourself. I was impressed with the flow of your prose. I thought everything came together well. Your dialogue was very effective. It wasn't just descriptive. It progressed the story, and I was really pleased and glad actually that this is the final story in the anthology. I thought it worked out very nicely, the way you contributed an illustration and your own prose story. So great work on that.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, looks like you're going to talk. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, that's it. I was, with all of these stories, I mean, just like with the comics, you have some very different perspectives, very different styles of the story. And I know that, with Erin's story, I like the way, I don't want to spoil anything, but I'd say I like the way that the last line ties the whole story together. I think it does a good job of ending at that moment of epiphany, kind of like the way a James Joyce like Dubliner story might, where it ends. The way it's not necessarily the end; it's kind of the beginning of something else, which fits into her epic. But it is the moment when the character has that epiphany, realizes something important about themselves, and is now ready to go on to the next stage in their life, whatever it is. So that was actually my favorite part of it was that last line and how it came together like that.
And of course, we all know that Erin loves pirates, so we're glad that she got her foot in the door with.
Spoilers.
It's a pirate ship. There's a picture.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
All right, so if you go to 142, Rob, my spoiler is that I write an inspirational afterword. You don't want to try to read it on the screen. You really want to immerse yourself. Maybe, get into the bathtub with your laptop and just read my afterword, because I feel like, you need to spend.
Don't bring electronics into the bath. Don't listen to Buddy.
Mm.
Don't
But
read electronics in the bath. Print it if you need to, or read it at your chair.
It's shocking enough without the shock from bringing the computers into the bath.
Shocking. Well played. All right, so here we go. We're at the end of our script. Last couple things we're going to do. We're going to ask Rob to, if you're still able to, Rob, pull up the forum so people know where to go. And then we'll be having a couple final words and final thoughts from each person who's on the screen. So, Rob, can you show us the forums? There are the forums. We hope that you register for the forums when I open up the registration starting tomorrow. Rob, you want to show the website? And the website will also have a link near the top where you can register for the newsletter. You can see it there in the top navigation. And then you can also see, so you'll be able to keep up with all the awesome things that we're working on together. And then you can see the download page as well. So you want to take a look at that. You can see the link for the complete list of creators and stories right there, Rob. You want to click on that. And there you go. You'll be able to have a free 144-page comic book story with all the things that you saw in here. Go through each and every one of them. Check out all the links for all the creators. So, final words. Rob, why don't you pull us all up on the screen and then go full screen for yourself. And I want you to give a final talk out for me. It'll go Rob and then Ari, Erin, and Buddy. So, Rob, you go.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in tonight. This has been an exciting journey. I can't wait to meet you here. Hopefully next year for New York Comic Con when we do a live video from New York Comic Con, actually showing you what we came up with next year. Or another con. It doesn't just have to be New York Comic Con. We can meet anywhere in the United States. We can do stuff. We can inspire each other. We rise together. And seriously, if you're looking to level up and be part of the comics industry, checking out Buddy, following Buddy. Nothing I did with Comic Book Advocates and anywhere I am today, including, yes, Buddy, here you go, me being in previews, would have not happened if I didn't go to Buddy's classes. I always talk about it being my continued education. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Nothing stopped me. In the middle of my mother actually being sick and actually dying, I showed up to every one of those classes because they were that important to me, because I knew there were other people waiting to hear, and we were all coming together. We didn't mention it the whole night, but I'll mention it right now. We stayed together throughout this year. This year was a garbage year. It's going to be like an ex-girlfriend. The minute we're away from it, we're going to talk bad about it. It is something we all want to get past, but together, we all stayed together and we made something. I want everyone who watches this video to remember that fact. Nothing can stop creation. Only the creators can stop creating, and none of us were willing to do that. All right, I believe Erin's up next.
Oh, I was going to pass it to Ari. Okay, me next. So I just wanted to give a shout out to those people who helped build the community, even if maybe you didn't get a submission in this time, maybe you get a submission in next time, especially Kristian, who helped us with all the legal, because everybody knows that like creators and legal, man, I don't know how you keep that both in your head, but well done you. So thank you for helping us with the copyright and the legal and all of the stuff that we just never want to look at. I wanted to thank Miriam for being supportive and always on the forums and always helping out. And I wanted to thank all the guys that jumped up at the end, Chris, Matthew, Andreas, everybody who jumped up and helped out. Grant for all of our web graphics and everything that he does for us, making our Panel One logo. And Kevin for always being online and helping me out whenever I had a tech problem. But also Rob and Ari for constantly pushing this book forward. And then Buddy, dude, thanks for taking me aside and making these creative panels, because honestly, being on this group helped me get through this year. And I've been able to to not only meet a whole bunch of really interesting people and do a lot more with comics that I never thought I would do, but it's pushed me back onto my creative path. And so I really appreciate that just for myself, you know, it really helps me do a lot of things. So if you guys are at home or, you know, somewhere locked away in COVID and you've created some stuff or you want to create stuff, jump on the forums. We'd love to talk to you. We're happy to help. We love seeing new stuff and being part of the community. So we'll see you around the internet.
It's me now. One thing that I wanted to say, especially not just about the anthology, but about comic book school, is that when I first started going to cons and I was thinking about getting into writing comics, it kind of seemed like there were all these groups, like there were all these groups of people who knew each other. There was, you know, they had their own thing. They all knew about each other's books. They all hung out together at the cons. And it was like you felt like an outsider, and you had to break in not only to the industry, but you really felt like you had to break into some of these groups. And this group, this creator connections group that Buddy started and Erin started with the online thing, that's become like our group. Now we all know each other. We can all help each other out the way that you see other people do as well. And it's a community of creators helping each other out, doing the books. So if you're interested, if you're looking for that way, sometimes I know when I've spoken to other people, when you first start out in this, it seems very intimidating. It seems like everybody knows everybody else. These are the people who you're going to know, that you're going to work with from the time you break in all the way until when you're working out throughout your career in comics. So when Buddy opens up that registration, you should get into it and join the community. The supportive community. You get better. You put yourself out. You push each other to not only to get better, but to finish yourself, to finish your stuff, and to get it into the anthology like that. So, you know, I think that's an underrated aspect of this, especially during this year when everybody's apart, where other networking options aren't necessarily available the way that they usually are, where you can't close down the bar and shake hands and walk artist alley or anything like that, meet people. You got to find other ways to do this. And for me, and I think for a lot of the people in the book, this anthology and the forums were the way that we did that over the last year. So I encourage everybody to sign up, to get involved in the next one, and hopefully we'll see you on there.
All right, so that's it, everybody. I mean, everybody, I thank you. I appreciate everything that you've done to help a personal dream and a vision of mine to come true. And that was to create something that was meaningful and lasting and really touch people. You know, this is made possible by Erin and Ari and Rob and Arielle and Chris and Kristian and Matthew and Grant. I mean, Kevin, we sometimes forget to name everybody, but I think the reality is you know who you are. You're part of the council. You're part of my council. It's something that's very personal to me, and you guys mean a lot to me. And I hope that the relationships that you've built here are meaningful to you as well. I've said this probably in other panels, but it's worth saying again. If you imagine the block that you live on, or some block that's reasonably well populated, and you said, where are the people who read comic books? You'd immediately cut that block down. And then you said, who are the people who want to create comic books? You'd narrow that down even further. And who are the people who take the time and effort to make comic books? And you really just cut it. You'd be the only person on the block practically. The truth of the matter is, it's really hard to make comic books. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. You have to commit to it. And there was every reason in the world this year to stop. Nobody would have blamed you if you said, I just don't feel like I can be creative. And yet you were. And I think it's part of our DNA. right? Like in the caveman times, the cavewoman times, somebody went out and, I don't know, hunted a brontosaurus or something and brought home game and everybody was eating it and having a great old time. And our ancestors were the people that went, we should document this. And they made a comic on a wall, right? These cave paintings are our ancestors. All of us have that little strand of DNA in us that make us storytellers. So despite the logic, none of this makes any sense. To toil away while you're home, to spend more time on a screen telling a story where you honestly didn't really know if this anthology would come out. You did it on faith, but at the end of the day, you did it because you felt compelled to tell a story, and that's not a choice. It chose you, and we chose each other. And I think it's really important to know you're not alone. That if you keep telling stories and keep creating stories and keep completing, there will always be an audience. We are your audience. We are the tribe that we build for ourselves, right? We have a family that we're born with and a family that we are adopted to. And this is your family. And making comics will never make sense, especially if you're planning to give them away for free. But don't try to think of the logic of it. Just think that you want to leave your legacy as a storyteller out there in the world. And so for Comic Book School and everyone who worked on it and contributed and rallied behind this little dream that I had to build a community, I thank you very much. And I look forward to saying, if last year was so terrible and we still made a 144-page anthology, I can't wait to see what we do together in 2021. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.